So I have a postal auger that I bought from Tractor Supply about 5 years ago or so, and the problem it has is that it mounts on the 3-point hitch, and there's a part that it's kind of U-shaped, and it supports the boom that holds the auger itself, and has like these ears on it that the boom kind of sits in, and those ears have been opening up over time, allowing the boom to kind of flop around. So what I want to do is I want to get those things, I want to somehow get them pushed back together, and then weld some gussets onto it, and hopefully that'll solve the issue. It'll just make it more stable when I'm operating it. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. I know it's a little early to ask this. If you want to see other videos like this, I'll be probably posting other projects and stuff that I do around the farm, so please subscribe. I also have some camera videos and stuff like that that you might be interested in. So the first step is to grab the boom and then start tracing it out, squeeze the ears back together, and let's get started. I have a postal auger for my tractor, and I need to fix it. So it might be pretty obvious to see, but these ears right here are pretty open, and they used to not be like that. Now what happens is there's a boom that goes on the tractor that comes through here, and it's just a piece of maybe, I don't know, an 1/8 inch sheet. I mean, there's a tube, and then there's like a plate of 1/8 inch maybe steel that sits in between here, and the holes in it, and then there's a bolt that goes through. Now what's been happening is that this thing has been basically flopping around, and then over time it's opened these ears up even more. As a temporary fix, I'd put washers here just to try to keep it. Basically what's happening is that as you'd start to use the auger, it'd kind of flop over to one side and it'd be at an angle. And so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to get these things closer together again, and then I have some scrap metal here, drops that I got from work, and I'm going to put some braces in. I'll fabricate up and I'll weld off to this angle, or this side, and this side, and it'll keep that from opening up again in the future. Now, the one thing that makes this a little bit more challenging is there's a little cavity here. It's not a flat plate, unfortunately. I wish they kind of did that, because that would be a lot easier. So I'm going to have to put a little step in here, and it'll make it a little harder to clear out the paint. So the first step is to try to see if I can get these ears to sit, push back into shape. I'm going to try, just for funsies, maybe I'll try a C-clamp. I don't think that's going to work. Maybe I'll try a vise. If that doesn't work, maybe I'll try a hammer and see if that starts getting into place. If that doesn't work, I might have to figure out some other means. So let's try a C-clamp here and just see what happens real quick. So this one's nothing fancy. This is what I'd use to push in. I mean, it's for woodworking, but I have this on hand for, it's probably not the most convenient way, but I'm holding it up for the camera. I use this for pushing in the pistons and calipers. Let's see. Well, it looks like it might be working slightly. No. Problem is leverage. Alright, not super convenient. I'm going to try to stand out of the way a little bit. This seems to be working. How does it work? Leverage. Alright, they look parallel to each other. There's still a pretty big gap. Might fill that in. Good. Oh, good. So there's a pretty big gap here still, but it looks like they're pretty parallel to each other, and you can see that there's, you know, certain gap as here as well. I'm going to take this out of the vise. They might spring back a little bit, so I might have to push them back in a little bit more before I'm done. Close enough, I think. So now, next step is I'm going to make some template right here, and then that way I can trace it onto the metal, and then I'll use my plasma cutter to try to cut it out. So use some cardboard, and then to start the template making process here. Okay. Alright, so here's my template. You know, for the arc, I kind of actually ended up eyeballing it a bit. You know, I left a lot of room here, and I'm just gonna just use the same one for both sides, I think. Now what I got to do is I'm going to use my angle grinder. I'm going to go in here and clear this out, paint. That way we can weld. The nice thing is on the ends of these I have some clear spots. Yeah, maybe I'll just grind off a section right up here to for grounding this thing out, and that way it should get a good connection. I want to paint the whole thing anyways after I'm done, so I think that'll probably be a wise move. Then what I want to do is figure out where on this plate, you know, how do I want to cut this thing out. You know, it would be the easiest. Start marking that off as well. Let's see. Alright, so my sanding disc got gummed up, so I'm going to switch over to a wire wheel, which maybe I should have used in the first place, but I didn't think about it. Okay, apparently that's equally ineffective. I got one side done, but then the powder coating started gumming up the sanding disc. So thought a wire wheel would work, but apparently not. Alright, so I marked out the templates. I sanded this a little bit, but I'm kind of lazy, and I sanded only a little bit. And I started marking out the templates, and you saw that maybe I switched. What I decided was that this surface right here was actually the most important one to keep straight. So I'm going to use the existing edge. I'm going to hand cut this and this side, well, basically all the other surfaces. I'm going to try to use a straight edge on the part with the slight radius. I won't be able to. So I'll have to do it by hand. But I figure if those ones are out by a little bit, it's okay. But if I have this part straight, then it should sit up against the bracket fairly nicely. So that's my goal. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to get a straight edge on here, and then I'll be able to plasma cut it out. Alright, so these are going to be pretty hot. Looks like it came out pretty decent. Not best at the plasma cutting, but I'm happy with them, so I'm going to let them cool off a little bit and then I'll grind them down and Alright, I'm running out of batteries. Hopefully I can get this done, but what I'll do now, I'm going to tack these into place. This side's the better side, so we'll start here. Now, the one downside I have is can't think of a good way to clamp it. So I think what I might do is just have to tack it into place. Assuming these things fit pretty decently. Not bad. I think I'm going to grind off this end a little bit, and then I think it'll follow the arc a little bit better. Maybe grind right here. So I'll do that real quick. But I'm going to do it off camera so that I can preserve batteries. Alright, I was able to get a clamp to hold it just a little bit here. So now I'm going to try to tack it in place without screwing anything up. So I got the ground clamp there. Let's see what I can do. Auspicious start. Didn't have my mask set right, so I was blinded by the light. So my settings aren't very good for the welder. A little too chattery, but that'll hold it in place. Let's see here. Adjust my wire feed a little bit. flip it over and do the other side real quick. Getting into some paint back there, so whew, it's hot. Not bad. You know, the welder I'm only using 025 wire, so you guys, some of you will probably laugh at me for that. Honestly, it gets the job done well enough. The reason I use it is because I can use it for body, you know, for really light gauge stuff, but you know, it kind of works for heavy stuff. I don't do a lot of heavy stuff, and I don't, you know, this isn't super structural where it's critical. So now I got the one side done. Then I just got to do basically the same thing. Whoops, to the other side. Here, I don't know if burning off paint still. Well, when it cools off a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of a picture of my welds so you can critique them, and then I'll do the other side, and you guys tell me what you think. Alright, here's the welds. This is my second one. So on the first weld, which is on the other side, I was definitely going a little too slow with the wire feed. I was kind of maxing out the capabilities of the welder and the wire at that point. And what I needed to do is, as it heated up, you know, from welding on the opposite side, because this is the side I welded second, it welded much better. This is the first weld that I did, maybe the second side. You can see it's cold over here, not too bad on the inside here, but again, I'd already welded on the opposite side first. Which wasn't horrible. Like I was able to maintain a good amount of heat here. It was a little cool. It seems like down in here is a little harder to get to and it's a little flat. I probably could have been up on the side a little bit more, but you know, it'll work. It'll work for what I need to do. I'm a hobby welder, not a professional welder. It does look like the ear sucked out a little bit from the welding, from the heat probably. Unfortunate, but that's okay. I mean, it's better than it was. At least this will keep them from working out more. And I might tack in some washers here just to help keep the space kind of thin. And then that way, if they wear out, I can cut them off and put new ones in. So it's probably not the end of the world. I'm going to take some washers. I'm going to tack them in approximately like this on either side. The reason I'm going to tack them in is because there'll be a little bit of a wear point. I can always cut them out if I need to, so that's why I'll just have a tack on this side and a tack on the other side, or a small weld, I should say, a little bit more than a tack. I do want to make sure that they also fit, so I'll probably initially tack them. These are 3/4 inch washers. And so I ground off the zinc plating on opposite ends. You know, it's definitely wear respiration when you're welding zinc, because I do know that it's pretty toxic. So that's also why I ground here. I took my little angle grinder and die grinder and ground it off here, and I cleaned up around here a bit, because what I'll end up doing is I'll probably start painting it, at least to primer it, and then repaint it. You have to push the back of the washer against this bracket on this side here, because since I'm grabbing it here, it's kind of kicking the washer out a little bit. So I jam this in. Hopefully, I won't obstruct your viewing. Figure once I get it tacked on this side, I won't need these. Alright, now for the real test here. I have not tested this ahead of time. You can actually see here's the washers for the spacers I've used before, and they're actually kind of worn down from use, so that's why I think having these ones in there might be a good idea. And doing this one-handed is not easy. That's too tight. Look at me, should have measured twice before I went through the trouble of welding these washers on. Silly me. Take two. I meant to show cutting off the one washer, but I forgot to turn my camera on apparently. So let's see what happens. I didn't test this ahead of time, so expecting, yep. So this will work. Looks like it'll work just fine. You know, a little bit of slop. They still have a little bit of an angle to them, but way better than it was. And now they won't open up anymore. So that's what I'll do. Now I'm going to paint this, at least prime it, and my daughter's going to paint it. Well, I thought it was a primer. It was in the primer section, and I just grabbed what I thought was gray, but apparently it turns out to be silver. Awesome. Oh well, I'm sure it'll work as a primer as well. So that's it. Next step, paint it up. I'll probably have my daughter do it, and I'll maybe post a little video or something like that of me using it at some point in the near future. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, and I appreciate the support. Thank you. Bye.